Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to the Wealthpress Weekly Market Update with Roger Scott here. Hi Roger.
How are you, James? It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here for me too. I'm glad to see you. How are you keeping in this difficult time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm keeping okay. I've been keeping very busy by doing a lot. I think my research has tripled since this has begun. I don't know if it was a catalyst or if I've been rejuvenated or but I want to know. I don't feel that lax comfort feeling that I had 2 months ago, where the market was kind of like in autopilot mode. I feel that right now I think this is an opportunity for us. I'm looking at this as how do we learn from this? How do we profit from this? How do we take this and take it to the next level? So it's for me, this is like going back to school. I'm fascinated by what's going on right now. My goal is, the way I'm thinking is, how do we take advantage of what's happening right now? How do we take advantage? What companies are in need? Which industries are going to be in demand? So this has been a very big driver for me. And I've been humbled by what I've been seeing in the markets, to be quite honest with you.
Sure. And so what do you find as some of the most persistent fundamental themes affecting technical developments in stocks?
Well, and again, this perfect question. I'm looking at a lot of industries or sub industries that right now have a faster, or in other words, a subcategory of an industry where the doors have been opened up for them, where they're getting a boost that they would not have gotten. Let me give you a few, as a matter of fact, a few really good ones, a good example of what I'm talking about right now.
Hmm.
So right now, obviously, you know what a REIT is. We
Yep.
all know what a REIT, real estate investment trust, so forth. People in
Lost
a
a lot
lot
of
of
money on REITs.
yeah, a lot of investors, a lot of retail investors they believe when you say the word REIT, they're always imagining brick and mortar, commercial real estate, land, shopping malls, things that are just dead right now. And a few weeks ago on your show, I talked about Digital Realty Trust. I talked about a REIT that specializes in uh, maintaining servers and holding servers for companies like Zoom, like what we're using right now. Digital Realty Trust actually holds servers for Zoom.
Hmm.
And now that type of a REIT right now is hot. I mean, super, super hot. The demand, I learned yesterday that in 1 month, Netflix streaming hours went from 5 billion to 8 billion. So servers and demand on servers is growing right now. And a lot of investors are missing out on opportunities because they think these REITs are just brick mortar, commercial real estate, empty buildings, office space, malls. And that's not the case. So I want to talk about three REITs today. And I believe, aside from data center REITs, which is what I talked about last time we had this meeting, I want to talk about other type of REITs that are completely, totally, and utterly focused on what's driving the economy right now and the future. And when I talked about this in my program a few days ago in my class, investors were like, "This is great. We did not know you could take advantage of this. I didn't know you can invest in this. This is totally what I want to do." So I want to talk about it just to very quickly give you the name of these three stocks that I'm really targeting right now, because
Sure.
I like these REITs. So the first one is Prologis. Ticker symbol is PLD. Now this is very interesting. Let's say you have an e-commerce. And obviously, delivery is part of your chain. You have to have deliverability. So somebody places an order, it has to go to your warehouse. The warehouse has to be on a computerized system. Logistics has to go pick up that order, get it mailed out to somewhere else. As I just described this process, this happens a billion times in a second, probably on Amazon.
What is this? What is the symbol of this company? Just so we can follow.
P as in Paul, L as in Linda, D as in David. Prologis. PLD. What they do is they lease out space for companies that are in the e-commerce business and provide logistics.
Mm.
So let's say you and I decide to open up a TV online e-commerce store tomorrow.
Okay.
And let's say that our TVs are coming from China, but we need to store them somewhere. And we want that place to deliver them to people who are buying them from us. Boom, we go to this Prologis. They take care of all of that for us. So it's not just providing a space for storage. It's providing a place from storage where it automatically gets shipped. That's a very unique business. And as you can imagine, with Macy's and the crapper, all of these malls just doing really, really bad right now, e-commerce is going to be growing. People are going to be using shipment style deliveries a lot more. I'm getting my water, my vitamin water delivered right now that way. I'm not going to the stores anymore. This is stored in a warehouse. It has to be shipped. They have to figure out where it's stored, how to get it from the warehouse to the mail, where it go. So this company takes care of it. If you have an e-commerce site and you want to store and deliver your goods, boom, PLD. 3,800 buildings, 800 miles of property space, and aggressively growing, aggressively. So one of the $67 billion in cash, and the stock is looking great. It's trading above 200-day moving average, above the 50-day line. I love it. So let me take to the next one. There's two more. This one, AMT, American Tower, AMT. This stock, Global Broadcast Towers. It's a REIT, but they're not collecting office space. They're collecting towers. They got 170,000 towers around the world. Guess what? They have a contract with AT&T and T-Mobile for 5G. Guess who's going to be providing all the towers in America for 5G? This company.
Huh. Amazing.
Probably going to be in demand. The stock is doing fantastic. It has 7 strong buy recommendations, 5-year growth of over 150%. Price only 10% away from all-time highs. If you look in this stock right now, it's not in a bear market. And they also deal with fiber optics. So they're subleasing the fiber optics to local cable companies so that there could be more cable in certain rural areas. That's not going anywhere. This company, what they're doing, 5G, cable, that's the next 5-10 years of growth. That's huge. And the last one is CCI, Crown Castle International. 40,000 cell towers and 70,000 miles of fiber optic cable installed. Completely on the 5G rail, completely recovered from the COVID-19 crash. And again, nothing to do with real estate space that's just sitting there. Towers, fiber optics, 5G satellites. I mean, we're talking state-of-the-art technology. So again, CCI, Crown Castle International, AMT, American Tower, and Logistics, PLD, Prologis. 3 REITs that have nothing to do with the traditional way of thinking about REITs. All 3 companies very close to all-time highs, if not making all-time highs, completely doing extremely well. There is no bear market for these 3 stocks. I'm going to tell you that right now.
So this is great for industries going up. There are also opportunities for industries going the way of the dodo, of which there are probably a lot more. And you had forwarded me a very interesting article on the demise of a well-recognized restaurant brand in the U.S. And why don't you tell me about what the implications are for the demise of such a long, historically vibrant brand that is now permanently closing?
Yeah, this goes way beyond just a brand. This has to do with how we live our lives. This may be one of the most, not this specific, this is just one example of what I see happening in the future. And let me lead into this story by saying, if you recall, over the last few months that we've been doing this, I've been using a very specific example. I've been using the security at airports post 9/11. I said that before 9/11 and then after 9/11, 9/11 changed our world. It changed how we look at airport securities. There was a pre 9/11 security and a post 9/11 security, and they're very different. My wife and I were watching a lot of old movies right now. I think I mentioned it to you. And you get to see scenes from airport and how people would go and with flowers and wait for people to come in, their loved ones from the airport. That world is gone. It's never going to be that way because we've got post 9/11 security. Now, obviously, what I'm talking about doesn't have anything to do with security, but what it has to do with is how something like 9/11 or this pandemic can permanently change the world. And we are finally starting to see that. And the article that I sent you today was an article from a magazine. It was a very popular restaurant chain. They have different names in different parts of the country. I think in the South they're called Red Tomato, and they have
Sweet
different
tomato.
Sweet Tomato. Thank you, Sweet Tomato. And basically, it's a buffet business model. It's a business model that a lot of places have. It's not the only one, and they came out with notes saying that we're permanently closing down this business model because of COVID-19. And I read that, and the first thing I thought about was Las Vegas. Every Las Vegas restaurant, every Las Vegas hotel has a buffet. You know, you and I are a little older than the typical Wealthpress employee, but you and I probably remember Vegas in the old days when buffets were a big deal, where you had to dress up to go to. It was like an evening to go to a buffet in Las Vegas. I remember Caesars used to have they had their arena emptied out on Friday, Saturday night. People would dress in tuxedos to go to this was early 80s, late 70s, but that was a different era. But it looks to me like coronavirus single-handedly is going to close down the restaurant buffet business model. That's what it's looking like right now. People are not going to buffets. I don't think they're going to be going to buffets. And there's other there's the Golden Corral or what. There's other restaurants like that. So I'm very curious how long it's going to take for this to impact other businesses. But as far as I'm concerned, we are not the word buffet I remember Sizzler had a buffets and other restaurants had buffets. I don't think these things are going to be around much. I don't think kids who are little kids right now, when they're our age, I don't think they're going to know what the word buffet means. All
Yeah,
thanks
that's funny.
to COVID-19.
I remember as a kid in Florida, there was a buffet restaurant called Morrison's. Is there any Morrison's in your neck of the woods at this point?
There are not, no.
Okay, well, this was I think one of the original buffet concept restaurants, and I remember my grandparents used to get so excited, and they'd be frantic at 4 o'clock because we had to get there before 5 o'clock to get the early bird special,
Of
which
course.
basically meant a half-price roast beef dinner. So it was the bane of my existence when we were going to Morrison's. But I guess it's probably the idea that there's no way to avoid close proximity to other people, and therefore it's like a natural vector for a viral infection. And so I see what you're saying. This is beyond just the demise of a business model. This is so indicative of a complete and permanent shift in how we conduct ourselves as human beings. We now avoid proximity to each other, which is really interesting in a world where the population is still growing towards the proposed peak of 10 billion. I mean, it gets harder and harder to distance yourself, even in my neighborhood. You know, it's a destination neighborhood when the weather's nice,
Right.
because of the old Victorian architecture. And it becomes like we sort of slink down alleys with our dogs when it's nice weather because the sidewalks are packed. So, you know, there's a lot of the wishful thinking that is underlying this return to an open economy. And we're already seeing indications of an uptick in the rate of infection where that is happening. And it really begs the question, exactly to what extent will our old way of life be permanently changed? I mean, buffets, sure, but what about shopping in a shopping mall? What about, what about just walking in an urban area? I mean, all these things now come with an elevated element of risk that was not really part of the equation before.
Right.
So I guess I guess your point is that all of this points to a much more dramatic impact on global economic activity than we currently behold.
Exactly. Exactly. And the worst part of it is we really don't know. We don't have any certainty at this point. We don't know. There's no finality. We're kind of like in the middle of this little change that's happening, but we don't know how far it's going to go, how deep it's. There's not enough answers at this point, which is why I think it's too early for people to start making uh, long-term plans in terms of uh, what's going to happen, how it's going to shake out. I think there's still too many question marks. And that's why I think investors should be focused on right now, because we we still don't have a denominator of the sick rate. We don't have a vaccine. We don't know reinfection rate. It We are deep in this right now. And I know a lot of people would feel better thinking we're getting out of it, it's getting better, but I don't think it is. I think we need to really solve this problem, not just kind of hope it goes away. I think we need to get on top of it, figure things out, and we're not there yet. And that's bothering me quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been using my own. My farm is in a county that's kind of remote to the city, even though it's only 120 kilometers away. But the stats on the county basis indicate that in this, it's actually the county is so unpopulated that they group three of them together just so they can get a test case of 60,000 people. But so they've tested in the one county, there's 20,000 people. They've tested just over 2,000 people, so 10% tested. And of those 2,000 people, 350 are, are symptomatic cases.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's more like a 20% of individuals tested are symptomatic, and the testing is only 10% of the population. So you kind of extrapolate backwards from that, and you look at those studies that have been done in the last couple of weeks at Stanford University in California and in New York, where they've just tested for antibodies in the population randomly without the requirement for being symptomatic, and discovered that the actual exposure rate is 22 to 55 times higher. And
Right.
that is supported, repeatedly in small sample sets from my observations uh, across borders everywhere. And so I look at this gradual reopening of the economy, and I just think, well, there's the next wave underway, because you know the, there's just so much. It's just so insane to me that yes, the economy is being damaged, so let's not let it get too damaged, and we're just going to take our lumps with the virus and see what happens, but we must save the economy. Well, you're actually inflicting greater damage on it. You're front loading the damage on the future timeline of the economy by accelerating return to normalcy, which
Right.
there is nothing to indicate that that is justified at this point.
Exactly.
Even Donald Trump and the Center for Diseases Control have walked back their return to work protocol, which I read from top to bottom, and I thought, okay, well, this is where government demonstrates obsolescence, is when it says, okay, under these conditions, it's okay to go back to work. Anybody who is data oriented looks at that and says, this is insane. I'm not going back to work. You can send everybody else back to work, but I'm not going back to work. In fact, this is behind our decision here in my household to accelerate the move lock, stock, and barrel to our farm within the next 60 days. Because, I mean, I live in a very dense neighborhood up here in Toronto,
Right.
and
Right.
it's like people are starting to throw off the masks and the gloves, and it's like, no, 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 not yet, people.
Not yet. Not yet.
So
Definitely
yeah,
not yet.
so I hear what you're saying, and so again, I hear you. Think about right now, looking at these great opportunities that you've just pointed out in Prologis, American Tower Corp, and Crown Castle International. I mean, those are great sort of outliers in the general trend of the market, and I think that's what makes now more than ever is very important for our subscribers and readers and attendees to pay attention to what's going on, because you've got an organization here with 60 people that are collectively seeking out the very best of these opportunities to bring them to your attention, because we succeed when you succeed. If you make money and you avoid financial hardship, then we've succeeded. And that's basically what we're here to do. Isn't that right, Roger?
Absolutely. I could not have said it best. And we're here. I've been working this. I know this pandemic has been really negative for the economy, but it really has given me a jump start to learn and improve and get better and just be on top of it, because this is something new, and we've never seen anything like it. So we have to be humble, and we have to not think that we know everything. We have to take this. To me, this is like going back to school. That's how I'm looking at it.
Right. Right. Okay, Roger. Well, that's a fantastic contribution. As usual, we're going to wrap it up there for this Friday. And I invite everybody to come and join us on Monday for our roundtables, which are equally as informative, if not more so. But great input, Roger. And thanks very much. Have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Thank you, James. Take care.
You bet. Bye for now.
Bye.